Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners work session for November 5th, 2012. As a reminder for those in attendance, we're happy to have so many people here with us today. And as a courtesy reminder, if you have a mobile device, if you could put it on silence or vibrate when we're in session, that would be very helpful. The first thing that we're going to do today is to go into a brief closed session, and we need to invite into closed session. I'm sorry, let me back up. First thing, let's do an approval of the work session agenda with changes. Cardinal Innovations quarterly report is added for information to the regular meeting agenda. So may I have a motion to go to approve the work session agenda?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now we need a motion to go into closed session and to discuss the negotiation and or sale of real property as authorized by North Carolina General Statute 143, 318, 11A5. And we would like to invite into closed session Jonathan Marshall, Pam Dubois, Dr. Barry Shepard, Lynn Shue, Colleen Sane, and David Burnett. I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. We will go down the hallway for closed session. Those of you that are here should not take 5-10 minutes, and then we should be back. Okay? Okay, welcome back to the Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners work session. Commissioners, I'd like to move up to the next item, 4.3, and then we'll jump into order. Trying to be cognizant of the fact that Cabarrus County Schools has a meeting themselves starting in just a few minutes. So we're going to start with the update of the QSCB projects, and we'll start with Cabarrus County Schools. So Kelly, Dave, I don't know who wants to jump in.
You want me to go?
Okay. Good evening, folks. And looking at the brief summary on the agenda, as far as executed contracts by project, since the last update, we haven't executed any contracts. However, we are out in the bid phase of a project at Northwest High School. So, project timelines and budgets, I think you all, as part of your package, have the spreadsheet. Highlights of that would be the doors and windows at Central Cabarrus High School. That project is still underway. We do anticipate that continuing through really through January, as we do have a change order that once we do have the funding on that for some asbestos abatements, things like that, and we do need to wait for the Christmas holidays, but that project will be coming to a close. Concord High School controls replacement, and Northwest Cabarrus High School, again, controls replacement. We do have some training scheduled for the maintenance staff on the control systems. That's really entering the very last phase of that project for those two schools. And at Jay and Freeze, that project's coming to a close also. We do have to tie together two independent fire alarm systems so that they are talking together. Various schools, breaker panels, which is known as the Arc Flash project. The contractor has visited 8 out of 24 schools. They seem to be on schedule, and I think that project continues on until March. We're in the design phase of the Jay and Freeze Middle School partial roof replacement. In that the designer has informed us that we don't have any insulation currently on our roof. Would we like insulation on a roof? Of course we would. So we're having him investigate the cost for adding roof insulation to the project. Any questions on those QSCB projects?
Commissioners, any questions? I would draw your attention to, let's see which page it is, 56. Commissioner White had asked previously on page 56 about the priority list for the QSCB postponed projects. And so that's the list that Cabarrus County Schools has sent us to let us know what order they were looking at. You will not make that, they won't make that decision, as I understand it, until after the 19th when you get the bid for the gym at Northwest High School, and then they will probably have discussion that night, same night as our meeting, on their these postponed projects. But since you had asked about that, I want to make sure I pointed that page out to you.
Is that page, on page 56, is it anticipated that there's $661,323 left over after all the projects will be done? Or
believe-
that's, excuse me, $920,000, is that what this is showing?
I believe it is showing the anticipated
surplus
construction
funds.
cost projects.
I'm sorry?
I believe that is showing the anticipated project costs.
Okay, and then the surplus funds is right below it of $920,810, is that correct?
Oh, sorry. I'll let our finance person answer the finance questions.
I just want to make certain I understand what this is showing us.
That does not take into account the dollars that we plan to move into the Northwest area project. So once we get the bids in, we move the dollars to the Northwest project, we will not have that level of funds available.
When you say that level, you're talking about there will not be 920,000.
Yes,
So
that's accurate.
this form, this what you have sent over, somebody has sent over, is not accurate the way it's showing, because it shows that, the way I'm reading it, it shows a surplus of 920,000, and then additional funds required is 661, which would be a net of 259,000. That is not correct. That is not an accurate number.
The 259,000 was an accurate estimate at the time after the Northwest project and all the other projects will be completed. I did, just as I left the office, I did an estimate of what would be left at this very moment, and it was approximately $200,000 where we stand now, which is extremely close to this dollar amount. This list was done quite some time ago, a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, no, I want to make certain that I'm right. The 200,000 you're talking about would anticipate the money being taken out for Northwest Gym.
It's after, what would be left after we
Right.
made the budget amendment for Northwest, yes.
Okay, so Northwest is taken out.
It has not been taken out.
I know.
but
And the number you're talking about,
Yes.
200,000,
Yes.
the Northwest Gym was taken out already.
was considered, yes.
Was the 661,000 on projects 1 through 11, which shown up here, was that taken out as well? Of the number that you saw when you left your office? You see what I'm saying?
No, I don't.
If I read
We've-
it, if I read it the same way, which I think is what you're getting at, right now, you're projecting that after you fund the Northwest Gym project and after you do these projects, priority list 1 through 11, then you should have about $200,000, if everything works out perfectly, that you will still have left to allocate.
Correct, that's correct.
Okay,
Nearly
because-
$200,000.
You're both saying the same thing, I think you're coming at it
Right,
at
but
different
what
angles.
happens is that,
Directions, right.
but what I was confused about is, the page 56, do you have that in front of
I
you, Ms.
do.
Klutz?
I do.
Does not show the Northwest High School gym, and that's what I want to make certain.
Correct, but it's on the original list.
Okay, that's fine, I just want to make
Okay.
certain that that when we're talking, it's anticipated, getting all the projects done, including 1 through 11, that's on page 56, the Northwest Gym, and there'll be 259 left over.
Right.
Okay.
When this document was done, it was 259. When I did it right before we left, it was close to 200.
That's
So the
fine.
numbers changed just a little bit. So, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions concerning the QSCB projects? Okay, thank you both. I know you have another meeting to get to. Thank you both. Kannapolis City Schools,
I also
for your
have to go.
QSCB projects, Will.
Yeah. Thanks for moving up. I have to make a meeting also. We have 2 projects left at Kannapolis Intermediate School, the heating and air, the HVAC. We're to the punch list phase there, basically just holding some retainage and waiting for them to finish up the fine work there, and that'll be finished. And then we have the roof that we're still actively working on. I think I probably misspoke last time I was here when I said I think I told you I thought it would be done in December, but it's looking more like February. So Nothing's changed. It's just I had the wrong date when I said that earlier. And we've expended all of our other QSCB money. That's the only 2 projects we have left.
So when you finish those 2 projects, are you going to be pretty close to zero, or how do you think you're looking?
Depending on what happens with the HVAC contractor, we may have a few $1,000s left there, but that should be about it.
Because, of course, as we know, the goal is to get as close to zero as you can,
Mhm.
within the time limit, so.
Yeah, I think we have. Yeah.
Commissioners, any questions about the Kannapolis City School projects?
I was asked or told today that the Kannapolis City Schools does not apply the money for which it's given. Is that a correct statement?
It does not apply the money.
When
for
you
which
ask
it's
money
given.
for us,
Okay.
and we give you money for a certain project, that y'all don't spend it on the money that the project is being, that y'all have asked for it. I can't imagine that taking place.
That's news to me.
Okay.
So, yeah. We have an open book. Anybody
Well,
wants to look, they can come.
I was flabbergasted when I was told that today.
No. All the money that was given to us for QSCB was spent for QSCB on
Right.
the specific projects that you gave us. And the money for the one time was spent for the projects that you gave us. And any
Thank
kind of COPS was been spent for the projects you gave us. So,
That's what I thought.
yes.
Thank you very much.
So on the one-time money, are you, I think I know the answer, but just to verify, when you are spending that money, you're sending the bills to us, to the invoices to the county to be paid
Yes.
specifically?
We
So-
are, when we get the invoice, I bring it down just like I do the QSCB invoices, and county pays it. So I would, if there were a discrepancy, it would show up there. So, but there's not one. So,
Okay, thank you very much. I didn't know you had a meeting today also, but we're glad to be able to release you to get to your meeting.
okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to go back to 4.1. We have a quarterly report from the Cabarrus Humane Society. I was wondering where you were. I kept looking over this way.
I was hiding.
Wasn't looking behind me, so. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello. Okay. So this is good news that I'm sharing with you today. Actually, the report that we sent in that said that October 31st was the end of our first quarter of running the animal control facility. It actually ended in September, so that was my being excited about our numbers and our showing progress. But when we ended our quarter in September, we started looking at the numbers, and this partnership has definitely strengthened our position in the community and the services that we're providing to the residents and the animals within Cabarrus County. The benefits are there are truly more animals that are being saved. We are picking up steam, and I'm going to jump forward just ahead a little and say that the fourth quarter numbers are going to be even stronger, because as we're moving through and gaining momentum and realizing more rescue organizations are starting to see the partnerships that we're building and wanting to jump on board with us. And of course, our efforts are freeing up animal control officers to do what it is that they do best, and that's out and being in the community, bringing animals in and protecting the community. And our relationship with Lieutenant Taylor and the officers is stronger than ever. And having said that, I mean, obviously there are stumbling blocks. I mean, we have had some obstacles to overcome, so I don't go into this saying that everything has been perfect. There's been a learning curve, and we are learning from that, so that's making us stronger. And I believe I spoke with Mike a couple of times, and he said he's had one negative phone call, and I hope that number hasn't changed since we spoke, and I hope that if that does change, you will share that with me. Some of the things that we're doing that this partnership has allowed us to do, and I think to meet the goals that the APAC had wanted us to do, is to be able to effectively assess the animals as they came into the shelter, and we are doing that. And more animals are going into rescue than ever before, which is also one of the goals of the APAC. And if you will look at some of the numbers, if you can see those, and I'm old and I'm a little blind, y'all may be able to see that. So I'm going to cheat and look at my paper here. But if you look at the first and second quarter numbers and then the third quarter numbers, we're able to pull more animals. Actually, the number of animals that the Humane Society pulled doubled in the third quarter over first and second quarter, and the number of cats doubled also, which is great. I mean, this is something that we had hoped to achieve. And then if you go to the next slide and look at this is even better news, the number of animals that, the percentages of animals that were euthanized, is definitely decreasing, and that was one of our biggest objectives. And it's down, third quarter numbers were down to 44%, and these totals, our totals mesh directly with what Animal Control was reporting. So the way I came up with these numbers was to pull the report from Lieutenant Taylor's numbers and match them against the numbers that we are able to provide, and they were spot on. So, and the overall percentage was 56 to 57%. So we are definitely meeting the goals that we set out to meet. And I think it's some notable things that have happened that have helped us to meet these goals were we had one particular incident that we worked with Animal Control was to shut down a hoarder breeder in the Mount Pleasant area where we worked with Animal Control to pull 48 Schnauzer Dachshunds from one home and place them into 6 different rescues, local rescues, without any of them having to ever set foot in the animal control facility, and none of them had to be euthanized. And that was a big deal for us because it's not something we had ever had the opportunity to do in the past. And in the past, we had also not had the opportunity to put cats or kittens into rescues, and we have just recently identified a rescue that would take cats and kittens, and that was another objective of the APAC, that we were able to do that. We have also formed a partnership with the Charlotte Humane Society to relocate some of our strays and surrendered animals that would have been euthanized. The Charlotte Humane Society is far larger than ours, and they enjoy adoptions reaching the numbers of 125 to 130 in one weekend, where we can only hope to reach that in 2 to 3 weekends. And I hope one day to be there, but probably not anytime within the next couple of months. Obviously, our objective is to continue to grow our relationships with other rescues, and that's where we're headed. And I wanted to just point out to you some of the rescues that we had been working with, because in the past I know that one of the concerns was that the Humane Society had not been reaching out into the community to work with a lot of the local rescues, but those days are gone, and we have partnered with a lot of the local rescues, and like, for example, Kreitzer's Puppy Corral, and some new ones that have come on board. Zach's Rescue has just within the past 7 days pulled about 25 animals from us, which is amazing. We have been partnering with animal rescues outside of North Carolina as well as in Tennessee and New York Husky Rescue, and others are willing to work with us, in addition to Kitty City, who is very near and dear to our heart, and Cabarrus Animal Rescue, who some of you may know Karen Britt, who used to be the head of the Humane Society. So to dispel that rumor that we're not working with local rescues, and I'm happy to say that we have a great partnership with Cabarrus Animal Rescue, and we're very proud of these relationships that we're able to cultivate. And then, of course, there are some areas that need attention, and with any undertaking, such as the one we've recently gone through, with the increased animal intake and the increased animals to take care of, there's also the increased expense. And this is all, of course, in direct proportion to all the changes that have taken place. And, the Humane Society has done exactly what we said we would do. We have taken the funds that we have partnered with the county, and we have used those to clean the shelter and to make it, I've heard, as clean as it's ever been, and it smells as nice as it's ever smelled. So if you ever want to come in and smell it for yourself, I would invite you to do that. So, and the Humane Society is absorbing all the rest of the cost. And so I think it's important for this group to understand what the impact of this is to the Humane Society, because we are having to work a lot harder to basically, keep the wheels on the bus, if you will, because we are testing animals as they come in. We are vaccinating the ones that we are legally able to vaccinate, the ones, the puppies, to keep disease down. We are assessing them. We have a behavioralist who is helping us to assess the ones to make sure that we are able to pull the ones that are adoptable, keeping in mind that one of the goals of the APAC was that all adoptable animals are either placed in rescue or placed up for adoption through the Humane Society. And it's not reasonable to expect that our Humane Society could pull all of the adoptable animals, because there are a lot of them. So we basically had a changing of the guard with our trainer. We brought a new one in who had a lot of qualifications that we thought we really needed and would meet our goals. Okay, so I just wanted to share with you some of our forecasted expenses, just to kind of give you an idea of how phenomenal it is and what it costs to run a shelter. And again, these are our costs. These are not costs that are passed on to the county. And these are not even all of the costs that we incur. Pharmaceuticals are expensive, veterinary expenses, and then of course our spay-neuter expenses, because it's our goal that every animal that goes out of that shelter is spayed or neutered to keep unwanted puppies and kittens from being born, because God knows we've got way more than we need right now. So I just wanted to give you an idea of how expensive it is, and to kind of help everybody jump on board with the idea that we need to continue to spread the word that people need to spay and neuter their pets and support the Humane Society and the efforts that we do in the community. And another thing that I think is very important to talk about, and something that's really made a big difference in what we're doing, is the technology within the shelter has definitely improved the way we're doing business today. The network, the county did come in and provide computers for us that enabled us to be able to reach out into the community and, to put PCs in there and to network, and helps us to network around the country. So that's been awesome. And the only outstanding technical issue that we have today is that we haven't gotten cameras in the back of the animal control facility. So that's one thing that we're waiting on. And I think that's a piece of technical issue that we're still working with. And so there are some resource considerations that going forward we probably need to think about, probably not tomorrow or even the next day, but maybe next year, as we continue to grow our additional kennel techs, if we continue and the partnership continues the way it is today. And there will always be increased veterinary expenses, as the Humane Society continues with the operating cost, and we certainly hope that this partnership continues to be as effective as it is today. And the feedback that we're receiving from the community is very, very favorable. My email is flooded with pretty much positive emails. I mean, we get a couple of negative ones, especially if somebody comes in and finds that their dog or cat's placed up for adoption that's been in animal control for a month and a half, and they don't understand why they can't have it back after it's been there for a while. But I think overwhelmingly the community is behind us in animal control in this effort. And then, of course, our goals for the future are to continue to come, and sit before you to do our status reports. And I hope that they continue to be positive. I don't have the Pollyanna syndrome going on here. I know that we will continue to. I am very realistic in my expectations that, we will have issues. There will be animals that we can't always save. I get that. But one thing that I would like to share with you is that we do have people that are working, that are dedicated to working with the rescues. And I do believe that the partnership that we have formed is one that is vital to this organization and this community. And the animals that are moving out of Cabarrus County Animal Control in droves is just amazing. And I really believe that next quarter, these percentages are going to be, I would like to say, in the if not in the very, very low 30s or even high 20%, I would be very surprised, because last week, when we normally euthanize 29 to 30 dogs, we only had 9, and they were not adoptable. And that was vast. That was major for us. That was a big deal. So I share that with you because it's always sad to euthanize animals, just in general. But for us who do that every week, that's a big deal. That's a landmark for us. And I really appreciate that you have afforded us the opportunity to partner with you to do this. So our goals: to continue to increase animal adoptions, to increase animals being placed into rescues both locally and nationwide, and of course to continue to decrease the euthanasia rate.
Thank you very much. I think.
Yeah, I would just like to add, again, as Ms. Sims says, this has been a really, really good relationship so far. She's kept me abreast of what's going on out there as well. I've checked in with Lieutenant Allred as well, and they are very happy with the situation. We did have the one negative comment, but I talked with Ms. Sims, and she said that she would address it immediately. And we've not had any other, just that one call, and it was so. We're happy to see that more dogs are coming in and going out. So.
And cats.
And cats. Yeah.
Bob, you're.
I just a couple of comments, a couple of questions too, Judy. And I think you may have answered it really already when you said about what you just said about the remaining 9 dogs that were not adoptable. But so we're seeing that out of that 44% that were euthanized, a lot of that's just because you did not have the space and could not get them out to rescues in time. So that does not. So there's only a smaller percentage of that is actually that has the severe health or behavioral issues that just makes them unadoptable completely.
Right. There are some that come in that are they're unapproachable, and they are severe bite cases. And adopting out an animal that has been involved in a bite increases our liability. So we can't do anything with them short of euthanizing them. So they are included in those numbers. And fewer of the ones that we could adopt out are getting put to sleep, because a lot of the other rescues are picking them up.
The second question is that, some of the increased cost for the Humane Society, if somebody is seeing this, they can make a contribution to the Humane Society and designated for this program.
Yes.
Can they? Can
Yes.
not? And that way you can help to
Absolutely.
further fund this. So,
Absolutely.
And then I know it's still too early to think about this, but looking at some grant applications, things like Maddie's Fund and things like that, once things get up and rolling, because that rolls into the next thing, I guess, and my comment I got to make is that I won't be here, but the future board has got to look at APAC, how that's organized, because both intentional and intentional, it's just so busy, didn't have a chance to get anything organized this time, but I think it's good we did not have the APAC meeting during this 4 months, because it's been a formative time to get things going. But there's something that the board is going to have to look at, is that how and what that relationship would be as far as helping with the reporting or helping with just getting the word spread throughout the community. So that's it.
Commissioners, any other comments? Chris?
First, out of all the animals that's brought into the shelter, what percentage would you say are not adoptable?
I would probably say 10%, maybe. And most of those are the ones that are bite cases, either cat or dog. And we usually know right away. It's, and our trainer will come out, and the ones that are iffy, our trainer will come out and assess those, and which is why we switched trainers, because the one we use now is a behavioralist, and she can help us if we're on the fence. And if we are on the fence, then we sometimes move those to Charlotte, to their specialist, who can work with them and see if we can save those.
Okay, so that 10% is included in this
that number.
Okay, so it's not taken. All right, and then my second question is, how do they assess the animals? If they're brought in, and for instance, if there's a bite case or what's the process? And
The ones that are bite cases that are brought in, some of them that come in are considered vicious by animal control. So we don't ever get an opportunity to assess those, because if they have bitten someone, and depends on the severity of the bite, then we typically aren't allowed to assess those. Our trainer she has the tools and the education to go in and assess them using certain objects, like an assess-a-hand, where she wouldn't come in with her hand. It's basically a plastic hand on a stick, and she sticks it in there, and if the dog bites it, then she knows he doesn't like people, messing with it. Or if she wants to see if it has food aggression, then she puts a bowl of food in it, and she uses the assess-a-hand, and while it's eating, she tries to put the hand in there. The dog doesn't know it's a real hand, and if the dog goes after the hand, then she knows it has food aggression. And then we'll take the dog on the outside. We have an area on the outside. If it's kind of an iffy case where the bite was maybe one that could have been provoked by something else, we have 2 people out there. So we always err on the side of safety, of course. And then we have one holding a long lead, and she's working with it, and that way if something happens, we pull it back. That way she can test to see what are its triggers. Is it people aggressive? Is it this or is it that? But she has the tools, and she is trained to know what to look for, and we defer to her to tell us, exactly what to look for. We, as Humane Society volunteers, do not do that. Right. That's why we hire her to do that. She is a paid, a paid person who comes into the Humane Society. We basically have her on contract to do that. It's worth it to us to have her to come in and do that for us. And she color codes them as to, whether they adoptable, do they get along with, can they get along with other dogs, should they go to children, should we pass on this one because it's liability. And our liability insurance is very, very high. Right. So we have to be very careful. And if it's deemed a dog that may likely bite someone and we can't take a chance on it, or if Lieutenant Taylor says, Judy, you can't take this dog was involved in a very bad bite, it bit someone in the face, then we have to pass on it, because you can never risk someone getting hurt, ever.
Okay, I was just very interested in the process. But the third thing I wanted to ask is, going along with what Commissioner Cruz said, individuals are able to make contributions. Where should they get in touch with you or the?
You can get in touch with me, and or you can visit our website, and contributions can be made to HSOC, Humane Society of Concord. We're a nonprofit. They're tax deductible.
And what's your website?
www.cabarrushumanesociety.org.
Okay.
Or you can, we're to attend our fundraisers. We're having a womanless beauty pageant on the 17th. And I would encourage you to come out and see my husband and other men dressed up like women to raise money for the Humane Society. Hickory Ridge High School.
What time on the November 17th?
November 17th at 6:30.
And how do they get tickets?
You can get tickets from Roos Memorial Shelter or Princeton's Meow, or buy them from me, or buy them at the door. I guarantee you it will be the most fun you have had seeing my husband in a dress and some other men in a dress, but it's a fundraiser for us, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But I'd encourage you.
And your phone number?
704-784-7387. And there's one other thing that I'd like to say, that we, just to put this in your mind, that it's going to come to animal control, that we have to consider from probably the state, Humane Society of the United States. They continue to call us to ask us about moving from gas to the injection, and that's going to come to us very soon. So that's something that we will be approached about, and I put this on the table with you because I am being approached about this on a weekly basis, and by our state director, Kim Album, and just as late as this afternoon on my way here. So I'll leave that thought with you. It's not something that I am, personally want to do, but as far as doing it myself, but it is something that at some point we have to sit in this meeting and discuss. So.
Any other comments?
If add to that, on that particular, well, not really on that topic, but back on the APAC, is I think that one thing in thinking through it, probably best if when the APAC is reestablished or whatever you do to it, I would think it would be best to reach out to veterinarians in the community and make that a board, an advisory board made up of veterinarians, because then they would have, they can speak to a lot of the technical side and those kind of things, or at least have a heavy representation from our veterinarian community on that advisory committee, because I think it would have a little more weight as well, and that would be a good advisory board to this board as well as to the animal control and the shelter. So.
Okay. Anything else? Well, thank you. I am thrilled to get your report, I'll tell you, because, my background is having a kennel. So I think it's great that the relationship has worked out so well, and you are showing great numbers, and I do agree that we will have to look at the issue of the injection instead as we move forward, and hopefully we'll be working on that with our budget to kind of address some of these, not just that issue, but the other issues and funding concerns that you have. So I think that we'll be able to do that.
Thank you all so much.
So, thank you very much, Judy. Next up, we have, let's see, Jessica Castrodale is here, Nancy Linton is here, and they're going to talk to us about the Cabarrus Health Alliance's 2012 Community Needs Assessment, which you will find starting on page 20 in your agenda. Welcome, ladies. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Thank you. We appreciate that introduction. We'll just jump into our information. We have asked to have it on the screen for the benefit of the audience, but we're aware that you all have your slides in front of you.
Before you get started, is there a way that we can also have this put on our website, accessible to the public, so that if they can't find it at the Cabarrus Health Alliance, it certainly would be accessible to the people, and also when it's running on channel 22, we can put a web address.
I'm sure that we can.
We're nodding because that's what we want you to do. I guess the folks that are technical need to really answer that question. But
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
that would be our preference if that's possible. We would love for that to happen. Okay. Our 2016 Community County Needs Assessment is the product of the Healthy Cabarrus Project. It is a state mandated activity that we do. With regard to the Healthy Cabarrus organization, you can see the mission statement there on your slide or on the screen. We're really looking to coordinate efforts to avoid duplication, to share community assessment and problem solving, and we're looking for collaborative strategic planning as we prepare this information and supply it to the community. Our overall goal was to improve the overall quality of life and health status of the Cabarrus County residents through the process of conducting a comprehensive community needs assessment. Our objectives included the identification of emerging needs and issues, reviewing our 2008 priority needs, documenting progress from 2008, and examining community resources. And then, as a final item, to prioritize the needs. If you will look, I won't read this to you, but there are just 4 categories that we've identified progress from the 2008 survey. A couple to make you aware of: there is a new CHA dental clinic for the underserved. There is also a new transit center in Concord under our transportation category. Our request of you and the community members here in the audience, or those who might hear about this later, is to learn about the current situation, how you can become involved. We hope to inspire folks with the information that they would actually participate and play a role in helping to shape our community, and then, of course, helping us to share the word. The types of data that we've looked at, we looked at 5 this year. We added 1 this year, which I'm really very excited about. You can see them listed. We've used the typical CDC-type statistical indicators, birth rates, death rates, and such. We also surveyed almost 1,700 individuals within our community, within Cabarrus County, and received information from them on what they understood unmet needs to be. A little more than 90 community leaders were provided an informant survey that they also responded to. In 2008, for the first time, we included an environmental survey or assessment. And in 2012, we're pleased that we've done a health resource inventory. And this particular document will be of very great value to the community. It will list the things that already exist within our community and resources that people may turn to. 4 of the driving changes that we always have to look at is the increase in population, the increase in poverty rates, housing affordability, and the insufficient economic opportunities. These somewhat overshadow everything. Population, it won't surprise you. In 10 years, we've grown 33%. Next. When we look at our increasing poverty rates, excuse me, it's late in the day. If you'll just notice, and go ahead and get to the next slide, because the darker colored areas on the map reflect the highest percentage of go back one for me, please. The highest percentage of children living underneath the federal poverty line. And now to the next. As we look at the increase in the households receiving food stamps, we have a 380% increase from 2000 to 2010. And if you will appreciate that we do look at a lot of data points that are done on a 10-year basis, if you will, and this is one of those in which we see that 3.3% of Cabarrus residents were receiving food stamps in 2000, and that increased to almost 12% in 2010. You can also see a similar increase for the state of North Carolina.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Yes, ma'am.
Is the increase due to population increase? Is the, percentages sometimes, you have to know the numbers behind them. Do you know if the increase is due to us growing at such a great rate? Is it due to the recession that we've been in? Is it due to different rules in place?
If we were
A
to
combination of the above?
Right, I'm thinking that that's exactly right, a combination of all those factors, because you can see that this is 2010 data, and we know where we were in 2010 economically and with population growth. So I'm not sure where this particular statistic is reported out of, but if we were to go back into the secondary indicators document that you'll find online, we can nitpick that a little bit, and I'll be glad to get back with you with the answer if you're interested.
Well, and the eligibility has been expanded
Yeah.
since 2000.
The eligibility expanded with Governor Perdue 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's what I asked when we saw this at the Health
Sure.
Alliance is,
Right.
have you had a chance to drill down and see? And they were going
Okay.
to look into it, so they may have already done so.
Okay,
but
good,
I haven't
thanks.
heard that.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see
It
at the
would.
time when the eligibility was expanded, how that, affected the percentage.
Okay,
Well,
thanks.
if it was 11% in 2010, what is it now? You know?
And quite honestly, we do not have that particular statistical
It's
indicator.
got to be more though, correct?
One would expect, and one would expect that there's a possibility that there's been also some improvement on the other side in the last 12 months or so, possibly. We can ask our cohorts at the Health Alliance to look into that and provide back some feedback.
I'll be glad to do that.
Thank you.
I'm sorry for interrupting, but when I looked at this at home, I wanted to make, I knew that, there's data behind the data.
Right,
And,
absolutely.
this is only good as what's supporting it, which of course you know. So those
Sure.
are the questions that came to me just right off the top. So anyway, sorry, go right ahead.
Okay, thank you. The next item just to discuss is housing affordability. This is a very, very busy slide, and I'm not going to try to read all of it to you. But what we're trying to show, and if you'll just notice, the increase in households with a high rent-to-income ratio. And in this respect, we're really looking at what does it cost to rent, and specifically a two-bedroom apartment or two-bedroom housing, and in relationship to your income, is that an affordable amount? You all, if you're homeowners, you understand that the bank looks at whether or not your disposable income is appropriate or not, and we find in Cabarrus County that 40% of the population is experiencing a ratio that is higher than what we would desire. And if you look at the comparison there at the top of 85%, that is the increase of that number. But 40% of our community members are experiencing a rent-to-income ratio that is higher than we would like. Okay. And just to put that in practical senses, it costs on an average around $800 a month to rent a 2-bedroom apartment, and at an hourly rate of $15.50, that is manageable. But with minimum wage at around $7.25, I know that's a little bit increased now, but 44% of Cabarrus County renters cannot afford a 2-bedroom rental unit. A little different number, but it's a little different way of saying that. And I would challenge all of you to describe your ability to live in a 2-bedroom home. Okay. Insufficient economic opportunities, and this may take us a little bit back to the earlier question. As we notice that the drop in manufacturing, almost 62% change in manufacturing jobs, and an increase in leisure and hospitality, education and health services, some of the roles that have maybe not traditionally been as high paying as manufacturing jobs. Next slide. And again, that was just to emphasize the loss of manufacturing and the gains there that are also in some of those areas that have a little bit more instability.
And I think what you said is exactly right. The manufacturing jobs that we used to have were very good paying and provided a livable wage. And a lot of the hospitality jobs that our society has moved into, because we have lost, not just in Cabarrus County, but in the United States, we've lost so many manufacturing jobs. And what they've been replaced with are ones that are not livable wages.
Right.
And that greatly has impacted this community.
Right.
Is more and more reason why, as we all agree, we'd really like to get somebody out there in that Philip Morris property that's manufacturing and be able to pull some other businesses in here that provide manufacturing, because those positions do pay better. And we look for, when we do incentive grants, we look for what the wages are. That's one of the reports that we get, and would hope that we are getting these jobs that are manufacturing that are paying better salaries.
I noticed that we've only had a net increase of about 5,000 jobs from 2000 to 2010. In that same period of time, population was increased by about 45,000 people.
That's a
Now,
great
that's,
point.
you know, you think about that just a minute. If that means that if you figure that 1 out of every 3 of the 45,000 works with full employment, we only have 5,000 jobs, new jobs for those 15,000 people. That means 10,000 people are either unemployed, underemployed, or working outside the county somewhere.
Yeah, we're going to look a little bit more of that
Yeah.
exact point. So when we went to select the 2012 community priorities, we looked at the data and said, how many people are affected by this? We looked at the magnitude of it, the consequences, how severe is the problem, what disability or death or economic or social burdens are caused because of this, and then the feasibility. How easily fixable are these particular issues? So if you'll, next slide. We chose 6 community priorities. These look very similar to how they did in 2008. Wellness and obesity, housing, under and unemployment, education, access to health care, and mental health were the 6 priorities defined this time. So in looking at just a little snapshot of the priorities, each on their own, wellness and obesity, and next slide, 78.5% of Cabarrus County residents report that they don't eat enough fruits and vegetables. And we didn't ask how many fruits and do you eat enough? We said, how many do you eat? And then we figured it up. And if we were to poll one another, how tall are you, how high are you, how heavy are you, and how many fruits and vegetables do you eat, we might make ourselves look a little better than we really are. So this number may be a little higher than what they reported. These are all self-reported data. And back up, please. If we were to look at the childhood overweight and obesity, North Carolina, about 34.2% are overweight or obese, and in Cabarrus County that number is 41% of children are either overweight or obese. When we look at adults, North Carolina and Cabarrus about the same at 66.5%. Okay? unemployment and underemployment. We asked consumers, go ahead and pop the next slide too. We asked consumers, are you happy and are you working? So 46% said, yes, I'm happy and I'm employed. That left 54% who were either unemployed and unsatisfied, unemployed and seeking, which is the 18%, unemployed and not seeking, not looking for a job, is 6%, and then 9% are disabled. So we said to those who were looking, we said, so what are the reasons you're not working? 38% said there aren't enough jobs out there. 29% said I don't have the experience for the jobs that are out there. 26 said I don't have the skills. 25 said I don't have the information I need. And 21.8% said they're lacking a certification that would qualify them for a job.
Do you know if that was a single question with those answers that a person could say lack of job and lack of experience, or are they only allowed to answer have one answer for that question?
I would have to go back and look,
Okay.
but having done this in the past, I would expect that this is a compilation of a few questions that teased out these
Okay.
results.
Okay.
Next slide. Access to health care. If you see that box on the top right, 100% of consumers that we asked said that they had foregone at least one health service because of cost. We all in this room probably hate it when we get our medical bills, but we usually pay them. 51% of people said they hadn't gotten their teeth cleaned because they couldn't afford it. 48% said I needed a root canal or a cavity filling, I couldn't afford it. And 41% said I can't afford my prescription medications. 21.9% of people that live in this county are uninsured, and that certainly affects access to health care. Next. Mental health. We asked people in the consumer survey, have you or anyone in your household had difficulty obtaining these services? And you can see that 86% did indeed have difficulty obtaining mental health services or alcohol and drug abuse services, which are mental health services. But isn't that incredible to look at 86% couldn't get help with an alcohol or drug problem, or help for anger and violence issues, or mental health services? And we know that if we can control our alcohol and drug abuse problems, that affects these other things, anger and violence and other needs. So that was really impressive to me. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Just a couple of questions I'd point out too, because I know that Cardinal Innovations, formerly known as PBH, works strongly with the Medicaid community, but I see this is probably the folks that are above the Medicaid qualification, because I know there's a lot of insurance plans that don't include very robust mental health services.
That is correct.
So a lot of this is out of pocket.
Right.
That those that don't qualify for Medicaid are having to spend, and this is another one of those things I think that is a result of not having enough, being underinsured or not having the resources to be able to spend on mental
If
health
I understand
services.
what you're saying, I believe I do agree
Yeah.
with you. One thing too, though, I believe there's a shortage of mental health providers in this county. So that's something that we need to work on.
And that's just a comment, but though yesterday, our pastor pointed out in the survey that in statewide, not here in Cabarrus, statewide, only 18% of people regularly attend a worship service.
Wow, that's amazing.
Now, you think about it, we're in the middle of the Bible Belt. A lot of these things are stuff that I think in the past were probably a pastor, minister stepped in and provided counseling in some of these
Right.
situations. That so much more of a population change where people are not connected to a faith community.
Right.
As you see that, could that be a reason why?
I think that's a lovely point that you make, and I think it would be a challenge for our churches to consider how can they use the resources that they have to provide some of these services that are so lacking. Great point.
And our faith community has been a location where we've tried to expand this information this year as well.
And I want to add, Commissioners, I know you already know this, but as the county has an employee assistance program so that our employees, and it's completely anonymous, do have access. They can go and get counseling. I know Cabarrus County Schools also provides that for their employees, and family members have the opportunity to go. I guess my only other comment would be, I know that we've provided that, and I think it's a good service for our employees. I'm kind of curious how much, and you it would be other data, you wouldn't be able to answer it tonight. But also, I mean, you said that one of the problems we have is a lack of people to provide this service.
Right.
And I'm wondering if there's a lack of available knowledge, that people know that they have a problem, they might know a family member that has a problem, but yet they don't know exactly who to go to, even to, you know, who do I even call? Is
Right.
there, do you know, do we have any kind, through maybe through the Health Alliance, some kind of a hotline phone number or something
Yes.
that people?
PBH provides one of those, and that's one of their goals. They have an outreach person to try to increase awareness about their services and connecting people with mental health services.
I think that's just as important, that you just don't even know where to go to. I mean.
Right.
And I try to remind people that there are services available, but sometimes it's just a matter of a lack of knowledge of even knowing what's out there too. So,
Right, absolutely.
thank you.
Next slide, please. Education we saw some good news in education in that bottom left box. In 2009, Cabarrus County as a whole had a lower teacher turnover rate than the state did. We looked at the consumer survey and determined the top 3 unmet educational needs were computer training, vocational training, and job-seeking skills training, how to dress for an interview, how to perform well in an interview, how to fill out an application, etc. So if we look in the box in the top right, from 2005 to 2009, the change in student demographics, you can see that there's been a 17% increase in student population during that time compared to 4% for North Carolina, and a 34% increase in the number of eligible students for free or reduced price lunch. So that's an interesting statistic as well, and it may mirror some of the findings when we go back and drill down the data for the food stamp program. Housing. We asked consumers, what are the top 3 reasons household members could not afford to get their own homes? And if you look on the box on the right, it says 15% of people who answered the survey said that they have other adults living in their household because that person can't afford to rent or own. So we said, why is that? Well, 50% said the rental fees are too high, 41% said houses cost too much, and 21% said difficulty getting credit. And we asked key informants what they thought were the 3 most significant housing issues, and they identified homelessness, affordability, and quality. And the box on the lower right just reiterates that there's been an 85% increase in the number of households with high rent-to-income ratios.
Did the survey differentiate on the, when you look at the 15% and whether adults live in their home, that those adults are adult children in their 20s that don't seem to want to spread their wings and fly away, or
Right.
is it the taking in a neighbor, you know, and having a neighbor or a brother or sister,
Right.
you know, aunt and
My
uncle?
recollection is, from having completed the survey, that that was one question that did not tease out that data.
Okay.
But we're very much aware of the occasions where 2 families are living in one household, or even the situation where grandchildren and adult children are living in a household with a grandparent.
I was actually one of those who answered yes. I had a family member living with me who had made a bad choice as an 18-year-old and could not get a job, therefore couldn't get a place of his own, and was trying to work his way through college and is now working fast food and living on his own. So. All right, so once again, there's the call to action. I won't repeat that. The next steps, next slide, would be, we're in the process of publicizing and distributing the results. We ask that the people who hear this look at and determine some action plans that they could implement, then implement them and monitor and evaluate the results and just see how well did these interventions work, and then go again. These are the Community Planning Council members, and on the last slide, you'll see where you can get the full reports, all the data, and some contact. Any other questions? You guys have been so good to listen to this long presentation. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Meesmer, do you have
Yeah,
questions?
I
Excuse
do.
me.
Let's see here. Let me flip back through. I had a
Question while you're looking.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the things I think we miss as a community is the understanding the importance of dental and the access to dental.
Right.
I've always been surprised and always will be surprised that so many health issues can be identified by going to see a dentist.
Yes.
You know, it doesn't solve all of them, and it doesn't find all of them, but it's almost like a first line of defense, is that if you, and so it's so important for the children to go see dentists to get on the right track and at least get an idea about what's going on. So I've been always surprised at that, yeah, even after I've heard about it quite a bit.
Yeah, it's my understanding too that we have a dearth of dentists in this county, so anything we can do to recruit dentists would be a positive thing.
Okay. The question I had was in regards to, you know, the income, I mean, the rent increasing.
Yes.
What percentage of income what percentage of the income should be rent? What is that based upon? It says,
Let me see.
Well, I remember that when I was buying a house, that they did not want more than 35% of your income going to your combined requirements for your
Right,
home,
okay.
your
Well,
living.
that's
And
what
something similar would apply for a renter.
okay, well, I was just wondering if that's what this was based upon, you know, is it that number or what? Taking
The
it-
one slide had 30%.
It's supposed to be
Was it?
30%?
I think there is one slide, and I'm sorry, I don't know
Okay.
exactly
I
which page
looked
it
for
was.
but potentially I missed that.
It was probably in that beginning
Yeah,
section.
I'm gonna flip and see.
I'm gonna write that down as something to look up for you
Okay,
and get back
thank
with you. So you're wanting to know, what is the rent to income ratio?
You'll look on page
Right,
33.
Okay,
It says reports renter occupied housing units with households paying greater than 30% of income to housing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on 13, page 13 as well.
Okay, it's on our agenda book, it's page 33 that talks about
Okay.
affordable
I
housing.
see that.
Because that particular figure does not include utilities, as I think sometimes your banker would want your
Right.
home
Did
mortgage.
y'all get an estimate of how many people in this county is working at minimum wage?
I don't know if we did or not, but.
And that would be the type of statistical data that would just be hard data from, that we probably do have access, but in terms of our community report, I don't recall us discussing that
Ryan, do you know?
specifically.
Okay.
What is minimum wage now? Is it $7.25? Well, that's for 2010, I figured it'd be gone up since then. I mean, it'd be hard to live on $15 and pay 35% on a house or rent, especially if you're paying for somebody else's house, renting it. I know you can't make it on $7.25, no way.
Yeah, and one of the goals that people often have is to live on their own and have that little place with a white picket fence and raise a family. That's a goal we typically all have until we get too discouraged to dream of that anymore. So,
But it isn't necessarily a bad thing to have people within a family structure and household longer than what might be 18 years and on your own. Sometimes that helps them to develop the stability and the resources to be successful once they're on their own.
Any other comments? I think this is a very important document, and I'm glad that the Health Alliance and Healthy Cabarrus does this. Is every 4 years? Is that
every
right?
4.
Every 4 years. I mean, I think it's important, not only for us to have the information, because, you know, we need to be aware of what's going on in our community, but more importantly, how we can take this information and, for us as an elected body, make decisions, and the other bodies. I know that you have been presenting, I believe, to all the different municipalities also.
Yes.
If there's anybody else in the community that would like to have a presentation, any businesses? they can
Barbara,
contact
Victoria,
you?
and Tracy are the point of contact. They will make sure someone provides that information to the group that's identified.
So if the Chamber of Commerce wanted to have a presentation?
Well, they've
No, I've
actually
already done
done
that,
theirs.
right?
They've already had theirs.
I thought you
They-
had, but I
yeah.
just thought it.
And I will say, we spend about 12 months compiling this, so it is a pretty thorough deep dive.
You got a cost on what it costs to compile it?
Miss Shepherd will, at the Health Alliance. I do not. I do not.
And because even though I introduced you, would you share with our audience that will watch this on TV what your full-time job positions are? Just so they know
Yes,
where
I'm
you're-
Jessica Castrodale. I work at CMC Northeast in community outreach.
And I'm Nancy Litton with the American Red Cross, and I work in all kinds of things.
Yes, you are. And Commissioner White, of course, as we know, is our liaison to the Health Alliance Board and sits on their board, so he's very familiar with the activities. So.
And he even gave us the positive feedback of looking interested. I appreciate that. I know you've seen this before.
But it's fascinating, it really is, and I think it's very important for the community to understand. It's a question of what do we want to look at, what do we want to look like, and there's a lot of need out there, and there's a lot of ways to step out there and help. So thank you.
And there's a real good opportunity to document our successes. And sometimes when it looks bad, you forget about the things you've done really well, and to be able to take pride in those.
Well, one of the things too, we'll make another comment, is that, more and more I see it because of the years I spent traveling, working around the Carolinas, seeing small towns, small communities, is that I think the greatest root cause of what we see happening overall in our society, this, as those other things, is the fact that we have seen the manufacturing economy disappear.
Yes.
Just about every small town had in its center, or near its center, a manufacturing plant that provided tax revenue, provided jobs, livelihood for communities. And when those things disappeared, every small community then had nothing to depend on as far as revenue to take care of the people, and more of it then poured back up the chain, so to speak, to get more to address the issues. And I think until we as a nation have got to firmly establish or reestablish our manufacturing economy. If we don't, or a new manufacturing economy, whatever, but get manufacturing back, we're just on a downward spiral. Lately pessimistic about it, but I think that's the biggest challenge we're going to face over the next 10 or 12 years in this country.
Maybe tomorrow we'll have an indication of which way we're going to go with that.
Yeah, that's right. So.
Okay, let's do one more thing, and then then let's take a quick break. Thank you,
Thank
ladies.
you
We
very
appreciate
much.
you
Thank you.
coming and being very patient. The next item we have is the resolution establishing the Board of Commissioners 2013 meeting schedule.
Looks good to me.
Okay, at this point in time, we will disregard any comments by Commissioner Cabarrus on anything that happens come January. Does anybody else look at the schedule? Everything look good? It's
This is for your review and give us some feedback, and then we can either approve it at your regular meeting, or we can even push it into December if you still need to check on some dates. But
I would just ask that you forward it over to Mr. Morris and Mr. Diebler.
yes.
So that they can look at it as well.
Okay. There are a lot of dates on there, such as different conferences that you have chosen not to attend in the recent past, but you have in the past. So we put them all on there, and it's not to say that you're going there or that any of you have requested that. It's just to be there, just in case you do. We will have it in place for you.
And I would point out item number 4, which is on the second page, which is the board retreat, February 1st and February the 2nd.
That
just to
is
make sure.
correct. I think, Mr. Burge, were you available on that time? I guess we can talk about that later, but that would be the. No, it's fine. You're good? Okay.
It's okay with me.
Good to go.
Okay, good. Let's take a 10-minute break, 5-minute break, and come back. We still have a lot of things to do, and we've had some very patient people in our audience waiting to get to our next item. So let's take a quick break.